Today's episode of the Baseline Scoop is brought to you by La Touraine Watches. Shop affordable luxury watches with La Touraine and enjoy fast and free shipping every day. Use promo code BLS10 for 10% off the Subnautica back in stock, and you will also get a free Tropic Band included at no extra charge. On today's show, Justin and I are joined by AB Aaron Bell of Philly Sports Network and the Open Gym podcast. We take a look at our projected top 10 point guards for the upcoming NBA season and see how our lists compare and contrast with each other. Will we agree? Will we disagree? Well, there's only one way to find out. I hope you enjoy.
It's 89-84. Sixers, and they get inside. Unbelievable. Julius Irving. Tennis leaning underneath. He was fouled. Going to the right side. Julius in the air. Palming over the right hand. Floating, reaching, and spinning it in. Watch this fantastic move by the Doctor.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Baseline Scoop. I'm your host, as always, Zach Ciavolella, here with my partner in crime, Justin Crosby. Justin, how you doing, man?
Doing good, man. Doing good.
Good stuff, good stuff. And, of course, we have our special guest today, part of the PSN family, host of the Open Gym podcast. That is Mr. Aaron A.B. Bell. A.B., how you doing today, man?
What's going on, fellas, man? Glad to be here. Another episode of Baseline Scoop, man. It's a lot of great things I've been hearing and seeing coming from here, so I'm glad to be a part of tonight's episode for sure.
I appreciate it. Likewise with the Open Gym. Definitely, if you guys have not yet, definitely check it out. It's absolutely fantastic. See some special or some familiar faces, I should say, from time to time again. And AB, we know you're up to some special stuff there, Open Gym. So, guys, definitely check it out. So, as for today's show, as we said, we're going to be going over top 10 projection, top 10 players, point guards rather, for the incoming NBA season. So, Justin has a list, AB has a list, I have a list. We're going to go over our list. We're going to compare, contrast, make excuses for why we have these crazy ass answers. We'll see if we come up with anything half decent. So, without any further ado, AB, I'm going to turn it to you as our guest today. Turn it over to you, and who we're going to get right to it. Who's your number 10, man?
I think I'm gonna start this off pretty shockingly. It's kind of a biased pick, but I just see something in the guy, and I seen how that team ran itself last year. Once their former point guard was there in Colin Sexton. So number 10, I'm gonna go with, believe it or not, I'm going with Darius Garland. I feel like going into this NBA season, he showed me a lot. I feel like a year under this belt off season with Evan Mobley, with Kevin still being there, just working, just seeing how they played last year. You seen the dynamic of the team change when Colin was there, and then when Darius Garland was actually running the team. A lot of more pick and rolls. He's a great passer, lob, and obviously a great shooter and scorer. So definitely, I know there's a bit of a shocker, and I know there's other ones that's out there, but I feel like Darius Garland going into this new NBA season, I think it's someone people should look out for sure.
Yeah, no, I definitely love it. I think Cleveland did a lot of great things last season. I think they're up to even greater things from here on out. Just a young team, a good team, and Darius Garland really took a big step forward, and he got rewarded for it this past off season. But definitely one of the guards on the rise. Justin, what about you? Who's your number 10, man?
So my number 10, I don't know where you guys have this guy on your list, but for me, number 10 is Lamelo Ball to me. So I got Melo Ball number 10. I mean, everybody knows, he's flashy, great passes. He can be a one-man fast break as far as just really pushing the pace of the team. Like when you have him running the show, he really pushes the pace. He does have the special ability and vision to pass. I've seen him make some of those passes that you see like LeBron make, or, just some of those really gifted passes like Jason Kidd. Even I'm not even going to take when I talk about Ben Simmons, he has good vision too, but just more so, but just, he has really good vision. he just, to me, the reason I have him at 10 is, to me, he's not really like, he affects the game. He makes Charlotte better than they were before they got him, but it just, I need to see more. Like, he literally plays like a 2K player, like layups and threes. There's no in between game. He doesn't like, laying the ball up, but he's more of a floater guy. It's just like, I need to see more from him. Not to say he's a bad player, because clearly he's an all-star. He's in the top 10, but I just think I need to see more from Melo Ball. And he, most players do make the leap in their third year. So, after this season, we could be talking about him being top 5, but that's the guy I have at 10.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot to be excited about with LaMelo Ball. He does fall on my list, so we'll definitely get back to talking about him. But it's his team in Charlotte. It's been that way, but it's so very clearly his team. But with Miles Bridges not coming back to Charlotte, so definitely a lot of opportunity for him. It's up for him to take it. But for my number 10, I'm actually on the same page as AB here, and I got to go with Darius Garland.
Okay.
At number 10. I mean, just what he showed last season was so impressive, and shockingly of all, I think, were his assist numbers, because we knew he could shoot, we knew he could score. Man averaged 8.6 assists, and that really goes to just how impressive of a threat the pick and roll was in Cleveland last season. I mean, he just absolutely dominated with Jared Allen and Evan Mobley right on the pick and roll. So I think another year really just under his belt, maturing, that chemistry building with Mobley and Allen, because he hasn't been playing with those guys that long.
Right.
Definitely going to be helpful for him. The reason I had him at number 10, I know he can get better. I'm not certain how much better he can get. I think that there's probably a couple all-star appearances in his future, but he's not one of the guys that I see either getting that label perennial all-star, or I'm not too sure of the superstar potential. I think any player, or any team rather, would do whatever it took to have a guy like that on their team. I think that there's a Fred VanVleet plus type of impact that can be had there. But I don't know if he's going to be the when we talk about these historic point guards, I don't know if his potential.
Okay.
So definitely a guy that I'm super high on, big fan. Number 10, I consider that a compliment to be that young and a top 10 point guard. So Darius Garland for me, number 10. AB, who's number 9 for you?
Man, like I said, it's so many point guards out here, especially some young ones, and it was kind of difficult with this bottom half, because it's so top heavy, essentially, that you try to look for like the bright spots, like the Darius Garland, who like led his team to the playoffs, things of that nature like that. Try to look for things like that. So just what's not left over, but just looking at the landscape of point guards, I was stuck between two players that I feel like one is a savvy vet and one is a young cat. But I just like his potential, and I'm gonna go with another young guy, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at number 9. Just know the impact that he has on the game, on the team, down in OKC. It's just the potential that he's bringing, the veracity, the game management, the takeover mentality that he has. He essentially put OKC back on the map. You would think there was a team that was on the cusp of just disappearing after they losing every big name that they had, when you had KD, James Harden, and Russell Westbrook. And then here comes Shai, who's I just like as a player. He does still have to grow. He does have to, I guess, stay healthy as well, because that's a part of his big thing. But between those two guys, between Darius and Shai, those are my like bottom half guys that I just the potential and the ceiling that I see for those guys. I can see them becoming, believe it or not, a little more than I'm not saying superstar, but definitely had that potential of reaching all-star to possibly star level, essentially, in this NBA.
Yeah, no, I would definitely agree. I think Oklahoma City is going to be a lot of fun this.
Definitely with all the new additions. I would love to see Shai and I'm sorry, not to cut you off. Just that environment, like you said,
Yeah.
with the Chet down there, with Giddy that's down there with him, like all those young cats. He finally got a team they can grow with that he knows is his, and the offense runs through him. I'm definitely, it's promising to see him going into the next season for sure.
Well, that's part of the exciting thing. You mentioned Giddy's name. He's real kind of point forward, and
right.
to have Giddy at point forward, kind of paired with Shea, who's I do consider him. I think he can be a point guard, and I think that's really kind of his role is that more so. And then you have Dort at the 2. So to have those two guys in pair, that's gonna be dangerous in a couple of years, because I think that they're both fantastic facilitators, and Shea's definitely a great point guard. So definitely a guy who is on the up and up. Fantastic pick. Justin, what about you? Who's your number 9 guy?
So my number 9 guy is the guy you guys just had at number 10 is Darius Garland. I really like Darius Garland a lot. I like his game a lot. You guys, talked him up, but I just think that he has so much potential, and I think he has they're trying to build the right team around him. And I think right now they got it right with Mobley and Allen. Allen is the perfect pick and roll partner for him. He's a great lob thrower. He really manipulates the game, especially going to the rim, where, they're looking out for the lob. So then he lays it up. Then they start going for the layup. He throws a lot. He's really knows how to manipulate the game. So I like that about him. I think just as they grow around him, I think for him, I think the core 3 that they have now is a good fit. I just think they need 2 3-and-D guys that can really be able to help spread the floor even more for those guys, because with Isaac Okoro, who's not really known as a shooter, is playing heavy minutes. Lamar Stevens, again, good guy, great defensive guy, but not necessarily known as a shooter. Who knows what's going to happen with Sexton, whether he's going to sign his deal. Karis LeVert, not a believer of him. But just, I just think once they build more around their skill set, I think he'll be able to show even more. But I like Darius Garland a lot.
Yeah, no, definitely heard there. And I think it's going to be really interesting to watch Ochai Agbaji grow into. He's not a 3-and-D player. His defense isn't quite there, and a lot of that just has to do with his size limitations. He's just a smaller guy, a little thinner, but he is a shooter, that's for sure. So definitely kind of playing that role. I think he's going to be a huge addition there. Really, they just need a true 3-and-D wing. I think you're right. A guy like a Desmond Bane would really fit in like a glove there.
Yeah.
So definitely hear you loud and clear on Darius Garland. Obviously, we had him at 10, so we're not going to argue, on the same page as far as he goes.
It was hard to switch them back and forth. I was fighting with that for a little bit between those two guys. But, yeah, man, so I have no complaints.
Yeah. So, AB, we did not talk about our lists together before we came on the show.
Okay.
We did not see each other's lists, nothing like that. For the second time in a row, we have the same player. So Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is my number 9. I would actually even have him higher if I thought that the Thunder were going to be better this season. If he could contribute more so to winning basketball. And it's really tough, actually, because they were actively trying to lose. Who knows if that's even done? Just because they have Chet Holmgren now, they could still be trying to tank. We don't even know. So we'll see what the Thunder look like. This is the kind of player where I feel like if we check in around the All-Star break, around the trade deadline, he could creep up 1 or 2 spots. Just if the Thunder are actually more competitive, because if they are more competitive, it's absolutely because of his ability.
Exactly.
He's a guy who can do just about anything. Real stat sheet stuffer, high efficiency, solid scorer. So Shai, guy who can get you to do a little bit of everything. I love him. I wish you were in Philadelphia, if I'm being honest. He's a big fan of him. Can't say enough good things about him. I know you said a lot about him already, AB, so I'll kind of just leave it there. But definitely a guy who in a couple years is going to be even higher on this list. So, AB, we now turn to you again for your 8th pick.
Number 8.
Ranked player.
Yeah, number 8 going into this season. Another one. It's more so, and this might get a little I guess not challenging, but people might disagree essentially like that. But number 8 for me is Dame. And this is why. I know people would say, he had a down year, but he still averaged, 24 points and things of that nature. I understand, I get it, but I just look at the totality of where the Blazers are going essentially. Not that Dame wouldn't be motivated to play and actually show that he's still around, but what will it lead to essentially next year? Can Dame actually lead what team is going to be out there essentially to the playoffs and actually make a playoff run? He stated he's going to be committed. He's staying there. He wants to win there. He doesn't want to leave, in which I applaud him. But and it's funny, I know you're probably seen it online. The J.R. Smith No Chill Gill podcast he was doing there, and basically mentioned Dame Lillard, like, hey man, like, I understand, I applaud you, but do you want to rot in Portland? And that's essentially where I'm going at. I feel like Dame will always be capped because of his environment and where he plays essentially like that. So he will always be looked at as a great player, gets a lot of points, wins games, but ultimately it's just the same story essentially every year. So that's why I have him down there. It's just more so of team success and knowing realistically what Dame could do and provide for the Blazers this upcoming season.
Yeah, I think that's definitely understandable. I mean, I don't think Andy's going to be too happy to see this guy down low, but that's a conversation for the Slack channel. Justin, who you got at number 8, man?
So for 8 for me, I have Dame Lillard as well.
Okay.
And yeah, well, I'm not going to go into it too much because AB said a lot already, but just more so, I look at Dame. I look at this as him coming in. Like, everybody knows how talented Dame is, right? But we're just coming in, like I said, off the injury recovery season. Not to say that he's not going to be good, but I think it'll take a couple months for them to figure out the roster and how they're going to make things work and the offense and stuff like that. But I do think Dame has a potential to bulk up like he has been before. Like, I mean, Dame is must-see TV, right? Or one of the players that I consider must-see TV. I'll tell you who my number one must-see TV guy is later, but but I just think that Dame has some catching up to do as far as having a down year. I feel like Dame has underachieved in the playoffs in his career. I know that's about roster creation and stuff like that, but he has underachieved in the playoffs, in my opinion. Specifically, the year before last, where although they were the number 6 seed, they were playing Denver. They should have beat that Denver team with no Jamal Murray or Michael Porter Jr. And I just think that affecting winning, like, he needs to do that more, especially as he's aging on in his career. And if he wants to stay in Portland with the roster they have, he needs to find a way to will his team to more victories in the postseason. But that's why I have Dame 8.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. Obviously, I mean, like, you have to factor in postseason play. You have to factor in how they contribute to winning basketball. I mean, just because a player puts up, nice stats doesn't mean that that they're the ideal player. I mean, it's kind of like the reverse case for like a PJ Tucker, who the Sixers just signed, where people look at his stats and it's not overly impressive, but there's no doubt in the basketball community that PJ Tucker is a winning player, that he contributes to winning. So, obviously it's a flip situation, and then it's at the extreme because you're talking about a superstar. But this is where you have conversations about guys like Dame, about Bradley Beal. Players such as that, where it's like, all right, well, what? And even I mentioned Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he's obviously young. He's not in this group yet, but you want to see them contribute to winning at some point. So it's definitely a concern for Dame. There's going to be growing pains in Portland. There's so many changes that went on. I'm not a believer in Jeremy Grant as a number 2. I think you need to see Anthony Simons kind of take on a little more of that role, at least if you're looking at who's on the roster now. But they definitely are better. So is the West. The West
Absolutely.
improved. So it's going to be difficult for Portland, but we'll see. It all depends on Dame at the end of the day, how far they go. They're only going to go as far as he carries them, and that could be potentially a top 4 seed. That could be them missing the playoffs. That's how volatile the whole thing in the West is. So looking at my number 8, right? So this is – and this player might be I'm risking it either being I'm overshooting you guys or I'm undershooting you guys, right? That's how insane this player's value is, because on the court, he's one of the best. I mean, he certified top 5, higher even. It's everything else that kind of goes with it. But I feel as though for at least one more year, I have to have Kyrie Irving on this list just for his production.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
He's down to 8. Okay, but that just shows how good he is when he actually plays. Irving is by far one of the best point guards in the entire league. It's all about what goes on upstairs for him. I mean, but averaging over 27 points, he shot over 40. He shot 42% from 3, and that's on like 8 shots a game. It's unreal when you look back. He only played 29 games. We all know why. Don't need to go into that. But when you look at those 29 games, they were insane.
Insane.
Like, frustration is like, this guy is so good, and yet he's just getting in his own way, and really just messing it up for his current team. So I think it's the kind of situation where if they were able to figure out a trade to, say, the Lakers, and his whatever's going on with Irving improves, I think you're looking at one of the best point guards in the entire league. And even this year, so there's not the mandate that he has to deal with. So you're going to be looking at a lot more games. He's not going to Canada, but other than that, I mean, that's 4 games a year. That's not that big of a deal. I think that he's going to reestablish himself because, again, on the court, it's been there, right? It's just you need more games under your belt.
Yep.
That's the case for anybody, whether it's injuries, whatever it is. So, again, on talent alone, he deserves to be much higher than this. But I just have so many question marks around the guy that he's got to be number 8 for me for now. So that's my stance on Kyrie Irving, and I really considered putting him even lower than this, to be honest with you, just because that's how insane the situation is. But AB, why don't we go to you now for number 7? Who's your number 7?
Yeah, I mean, you done already started, so you might as well continue that train. Number 7 for me was Kyrie Irving, and for a lot of those things that you've mentioned, and we all know literally once the season starts, he literally can shoot up within that top 3 easily, like easily. That's how talented he is. But literally, that's the only caveat where you have to put him in this space of like limbo, right? Where I put him in the space of like limbo at number 7, because it's literally, if he plays, we know we're going to get. But the thing is, will he play? And how motivated will he be, essentially? Because we know what's been going on. There's a lot of rumors about him wanting to be in LA, but then recently, coming out saying he wants to finish out his contract and he's committed with the Nets. So we don't know what's going on there with that. But wherever he lands, essentially, if we get a motivated and wanting to play and wanting to be there, Kyrie Irving, this 7 can quickly turn into a 3-2-1, essentially. But right now, he's literally at 7 for me, only because of just we don't know what are we going to get once the season starts. But it can go either way, essentially. So he's in limbo for me.
100% agree. Justin, what about you for number 7?
Kyrie Irving.
Yeah. I mean, you got to put him in there, right? You have to.
You can't have him in the top 10 list, but he's got to be lower for it,
And because honestly, when I was thinking about it, I'm like, he might like talent, like we talk about talent alone, top 3. But I'm like you said, everything you guys said all the same. But I had Kyrie at 7, so no, you didn't need to rehash.
Yes, sir.
Well, for 7 for me, and this might actually be my most controversial selection.
Okay.
It is another proven point guard. He's Probably the most second most second or third most decorated of any of them on my list. I think he's going to take a step back this season. He did during the regular season last year. Playoffs, he obviously turned it up. He's saving his body for the playoffs. We've seen it. Even still, durability is an issue. That's Mr. Chris Paul. I just listen. I have loved Chris Paul for years and years. He made the right decision last season in kind of phoning in the regular season. We saw obviously that he's still somewhat of the player that he used to be in the playoffs because he just ratcheted everything up, and he was far more efficient in the playoffs than he was in the regular season. You know, he did some of the things he needed to do. Obviously, Phoenix still had their problems in the postseason, but Father Time's undefeated. You know, so I don't think that he's going to be cooked necessarily, but we're watching the consistent downturn of Chris Paul's career. So I dropped him down to number 7 today. So we're down to 6. AB, who do you got?
I'm curious as to the later on in your list. Now you saying that because it's crazy. It's like I'm like just one step behind or ahead, whatever you want to call it, because my next will be Chris Paul. And literally the reason why I say 6 is because I feel like 6 is like, you know what you're going to get. You know, like you go into the next season, he's going to be consistent. He's going to make plays. He's going to play make for others. He's going to help his team win. But again, can he stay healthy? Can he step up to the plate? You know, and be that catalyst, which to your point, I do feel like he is in that decline aspect of his career now because of the fact that we seen last year and he gave it his all in the playoffs and they still needed that extra oomph, and you know they were looking for Devin Booker to step up to the plate. So definitely I have him at 6 because I feel like he still is going to be consistent. He's still going to be the model point guard in the NBA, but it's just like it was just the last year of just giving you your flowers essentially like that. Like here you go, number 6, Mr. Consistent, Chris Paul. You know what you're going to get, unless next year we're moving on.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of just what we'll kind of see and kind of readjust it. But I think you're right. You kind of know what you're getting, and again, just if the body holds up, he's that fringe top 5. But we'll see what happens. But definitely on the same page there. Justin, how are we feeling?
So my number 6 is actually Mr. Must See TV, Ja Morant.
Really? At 6? Yes. Okay.
All right.
Yes.
All right. Defend your point. Come on.
Yes.
So my top 5. I mean, you'll see my top. You guys will learn my top 5, but I have Ja just missing that top 5 just because. One, I feel like the guys on this list, when called upon, are better facilitators than Ja. Specifically, that's really what it comes down to when they're called upon doing that. Now, some of the people on my number 5 list, they do have the ability to get a bucket, but facilitation, I feel like they really allow their team to really eat and can just take over a game from a facilitating aspect as well. But Ja, I mean, take none away from him. Must see TV. I know for a fact that anytime Ja comes to Philly, I'm going to the game. I went to the last game they played this season. First, it was an amazing game. The Sixers wound up winning, but secondly, like literally every time Ja went to the rim, the whole crowd was oohing and eyeing because it's just literally like the athleticism is there.
Yeah, like
he has the meanness when he goes to the rim. He can get you with the finesse. He can get you with the dunks. Like it's just everything. Yeah. Everybody knows that. Sorry, his 3-point shooting, his outside shooting needs some improvement. Guys are still going under the screen on him, but as he really gets more confident in that, like he's taking them, right? He's taking them because I saw guys going under the screen on him in the playoffs. He was taking it, right? But so he's taking them. So once he continues to get better at that, Ja's going to bolt up this list for sure. Again, taking nothing away from him. I also think I don't want to say Memphis was like. I want to say it was like flash in the pan last season. They're still going to be good, but I think as as other teams come up, like the Clippers and the Nuggets get healthy, I think those guys will fall down the pecking order, in my opinion. And then I think that changes their matchups and in the playoffs to try to get to a conference final or something like that. So that's my only thing about Memphis. Also, other things will be affecting health. Like, I feel like Jaren Jackson Jr., no matter how good he is, I feel like he stayed with an injury. And Dylan Brooks shoots them out of every game that they don't win. So,
did you see that video of that fan who found Dylan Brooks at the food court?
Yes.
Yeah.
He was telling the truth. He was telling the truth. So,
oh man,
but yeah, no, Ja, he's just outside the top 5 with me. It was a tough decision, but I like Ja. Like I said, must see TV. Like, anytime a Ja, like next season, you'll see, in my belief, you'll see some of the guard change as far as like what teams you see on national television more. And I think Memphis, just because of the Ja Man factor, like they're good, they're a good young team, but they're going to be on just because of Ja. And that's the type of respect that he has. So,
yeah, this might be heretical to say, but I always kind of felt like Ja was like a little bit of Derrick Rose with a little more swagger, you know?
Yeah.
And he's one of my favorite players to watch.
Absolutely.
You know, so hopefully he can keep on getting even better and better and even reach that D Rose level, because MVP D Rose was something special. I mean, just absolutely. So for me, for number 6, this is where I have Damien Lillard. And the reason that I have him, I can't believe I'm saying this, but this high is because Damien Lillard is just so damn good. And I feel like people tend to forget that, because it's almost, what have you done for me lately? And you have to think about, what's the context of what's gone on in Portland, right? So first of all, him and CJ McCollum, and I love both of those players individually, but that was always a problematic pairing. Not offensively, obviously. Not offensively, but it's just such a nightmare defensively. Now, he's not in that much more of an improved situation with Anthony Simons, but he has a similar offensive partner, and the defense around him's gotten better. Having Josh Hart, having Jeremy Grant definitely improves things. Hopefully Nurk can be healthy this season for him. But what I'm really hoping for is a healthy Damian Lillard. Now, he loses points because of that questionable health. But peak Damian Lillard is absolutely insane. You're talking about a guy who go for 30 and 10 any night, and average 25 and 10. So I definitely want to see what he has this upcoming season for Portland. My personal opinion, I do think Portland does make the playoffs. I think they did enough to make it into the playoffs. And again, that's all going to be about Dame. I don't love their offense outside of Dame. But I think he has enough in him to carry them. So I think we're going to be seeing maybe not quite peak Dame. I think we're kind of over that period, but we're going to be getting a little bit closer to that. And it's going to make a lot of people forget about last season, where I don't want to say he was disinterested, because I don't think Dame's ever been a disinterested type, but more so it's he knew what the season was, and then he was, of course, hurt as well. So I think you're going to be looking at more so the fully engaged, fully competitive, fighting, with everything he has to will Portland to the playoffs, Damian Lillard, like we've seen in the past. So I think he's going to be at 6, and that could go up by midseason, to be flat honest with you. So time will tell. Much like Chris Paul, Father Time, undefeated. We'll see what happens with Dame, but we're halfway through. Already halfway through. We've gone through our bottom 5. Okay, we got 5 more to go each. We're going to take a quick break, okay? And then when we come back, we're going to finish up our top 5, and then we have just a quick Kevin Durant update. So, today's episode of the Baseline Scoop is brought to you by La Touraine Watches. Shop affordable luxury watches with La Touraine and enjoy fast and free shipping every day. Use promo code BLS10 for 10% off the Subnautica back in stock, and you will also get a free Tropic Band included at no extra charge. All right, welcome back to the Baseline Scoop. We have gone through the bottom 5 of our top 10 point guard lists. This is, of course, Zach Ciavolella with Justin Crosby, with Aaron A.B. Bell, starting the top 5, the real, the meat of it all, though, the oyster, if you will, So, AB, why don't we turn to you, man? Number 5. Who do you got?
So I might start off with some controversy here, then, so because I know I've seen a lot out there, and this particular player, he's been touted high. He's within the top 4 essentially going in. But for me, at number 5, believe it or not, is going to be Trey Young down in Atlanta, and I absolutely get it with the addition of Murray,
DeJounte,
and DeJounte Murray, and them being able to keep some key guys like a Clint and John Collins and things of that nature. Trey Young to me has been very talented player, but the biggest thing with me is just the efficiency aspect of his game. Essentially, like I look at point guards, and when you think point guard, and I know one of the guys, and y'all going to get mad at this statement because one of the guys later, he doesn't he doesn't know what efficiency is, but I can explain that. But efficiency is a thing with me, and then it seems that maybe the Murray acquisition will help out, but it's just he burns out every year. He's so small. He carries a big load in Atlanta, and I know they want him to. They use him like Steph Curry in a sense, as far as literally initiating everything through him. Literally, no one else scores unless Trey Young has the ball. But I am excited to see the new addition of Murray with him. See if Trey Young can play the off ball. Can he shoot off ball? Can he be effective? Essentially, I'm sorry. Can he be effective without the basketball essentially in his hand? And how do they use him? Do they use him more in the point guard setting, or is he just going to be more of a catch and shoot type of guy going into the season? Because again, the Atlanta Hawks offense literally was always Trey Young. It ran, and when he was off the floor, they didn't know what to do essentially like that. So definitely I'm excited. I know what can be. He can shoot up on this list as well, but I'm more so just playing it safe. Like, let's just see what happens. Like I said, I understand he does have a higher sin he can reach, but let's just see what happens. Let's not anoint him as that guy just yet, or enter into that realm of the upper echelon of point guards just yet.
Justin, quit smiling. You had John Moran at 6.
I know you said.
Settle down over there.
Listen,
Justin.
I just think that it's about to be real good discussions. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
All right. Well, let's hear your number 5, man.
Go ahead.
So my number 5 is CP3.
Okay. Oh yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, so I have CP3. Like, listen, I'm not a fan of CP3. Like, just all the shenanigans and the flopping and the dirty play and the punching people in the nuts and all. Like, I'm not a fan of any of that. Like when the Suns were losing Game 7, I was rooting for it. Like, I was like, good.
Mm-hmm.
Because they just walk around like, they stuff don't stink. But I can't take away Chris Paul is the quintessential point guard. They call him the point guy for a reason. And Chris Paul will go down as one of the best point guards to ever play the game, period. Now, the reason he's 5 on this list for me is because he's older in age, injury prone. He's declining a little bit. Before he could control the game, but like from start to finish, now he does it more in spurts. A couple, 5 minutes here in a quarter, and he can affect the game. And he made it easier for guys like DeAndre Ayton to get their money, right? Mm-hmm. So he made it easier to the point where they think Chris Paul is good enough at this age right now for them not to re-sign Ayton and to play with Bismack Biyombo or whoever else they just throw there, right? Charles Bassey, if you want to. So like at the end of the day, that's where I think like, okay, he's top 5, and it's like ABC talk about some flowers. It's just showing that respect that at the end of the day, he was one of the greats to play the game. But yeah, I have him at 5.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I just am not as, because Chris Paul's always had injuries, man. Like it always. Like
Yeah.
I just feel like, listen, I hear you. Like at his peak, like is it top 5 talent for sure, like for sure, without a doubt. Chris Paul being healthy in the postseason, I don't see it after, man.
No, it's never. Like I don't think he's ever been healthy in the postseason.
Yeah.
But no, I think late New Orleans, early Clippers, Chris Paul was the best point guard in the league. So
absolutely.
Yeah. And he had a really good year in Oklahoma City too.
Sure.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's funny that you brought that up because that kind of ties into my next guy. And I'm actually surprised that I'm the first one to say it. But I guess that speaks to how much of a bounce back year he's expected to have. But number 5 for me is James Harden. I realize that a lot of other people, might be hopeful that he's higher. I'm hopeful that he's higher. By midseason, by the end of the season. Harden, the way he played this past season, would be fringe top 10 on this list or not on it for me. Just the way that how inefficient he was, his postseason performance. What you got, Justin? You can speak.
No, I was just saying, I do think he will be top 10. I don't think he would be outside the top 10. And I guess we could talk later. We'll talk about who just missed. But I do think he was good enough to be top 10 this year, regardless of his flame on the playoffs. Because, like, when you look at some of the other people, there are only like a few guys that might not be on our top 10 that, like, you can consider in the right times and moments. But then when you start getting into like the Kyle Lowrys and the Fred VanVleets, like, no.
Oh, we're not going that. No. Like more so, like, so it like if you're keeping Kyrie Irving on the list, like that's
right.
Okay. He only paid 29.
Okay.
We'll talk about him a little later because he's an honorable mention. But I got a guy who's now moved out of position, who certainly talent-wise is top 10, but he's no longer this position. So, you have to factor in that kind of stuff too. So, and I guess it's tough, assuming that all these guys, right? Because Dame didn't play much last year,
right?
But you hear the point of what I'm saying, right? Like he didn't play like a star point guard. He didn't play like a franchise player last season. Everybody knows that. James knows that, right? Yep. It's not a surprise to anybody. My thing with James Harden is that I expect him to be healthy this season. There is no excuse to not be. He had a very difficult injury. I don't want to twist that up at all. Grade 2 strain. That is it's not fun. It's you're talking about a partial tear of at least one muscle in your hamstring. You got 3 muscles in your hamstring. I found out all this stuff that I never knew about hamstrings before. Right? You got 3 muscles in it. Grade 2 strain is a tear of at least one of those. We don't know how many of those he actually had a partial tear of. But this ties into the Chris Paul point because, again, it's a similar injury to what Paul had. When you look at Paul's return and then his year in OKC, Paul was pretty rough his first month in OKC, and he got better each and every month. And a large part of that is, not having high expectations, just being able to kind of take things slow. That's what James Harden didn't have in Brooklyn. And then he, again, didn't have that in Philly. We know he didn't go out training this past offseason the way that he normally does to get into basketball shape. It was all about just recuperating from the injury. Well, now he's back to working out, right? Now he looks great, by the way. He looks fantastic. He is finally looking the part of James Harden again. And not the disgruntled, Big Mama's house wearing outfit, James Harden, but the true James Harden. So I think with that stability in his lower body, I think he's going to have that little extra burst, and I think that we're going to see that impact kind of everything. Whether it is his shooting, especially as he drives the paint, and I think we're going to see a little more ball security because of that as well. So I expect a lot out of James Harden. I'm not ready to put him higher than 5 yet. I need him to prove it to me a little bit more. this is one where I'm more than okay if, come January, come February, we look back and like, oh, you got to up James Harden up there a little bit. Okay. And if that happens, I would love to admit that I'm wrong then. But until we get to that point, I think James Harden top 5. I think that's fair. I think that's a perfectly fair spot for him. But that's all what I have to say on James Harden. I have a feeling we're going to talk about him again a little later on today. But AB, why don't you go? Why don't you give us your number 4 guy?
Well, you said you would love to be proved a liar. Well, I'm gonna prove you a liar right now. So we got James Harden. For me, he is coming in at number 4, and a lot of the things that you said, I agree with. But the one caveat to me that I look at when it comes to the Sixers, just looking at the team in general. So instead of James Harden assisting to Shake Milton, Furkan Korkmaz, George Niang as your best bench player coming off the bench, you add the additions of a D'Anthony Melton, PJ Tucker, and Daniel House, along with another year of a workaholic in Tyrese Maxey and then Joel Embiid still being there. I just feel like last year, yes, a part of it, and I think I'm more so a believer of James Harden going into this year than most people are, because I know. Can y'all hear me? I'm sorry, I know my camera just went out.
Hear you.
Hear you? Okay.
Well, we can hear you. Keep talking.
Yeah. So with me, when it comes to James Harden and that aspect of it, there we go. Here we go. When it comes to James Harden coming into this season, I look at this just the better additions around him, essentially, like that is basically what I'm going with. Yes, another year of this time not being able, having to rehab, just work on his game, get conditioned right, bond with his team, have a full all season to work with the team, essentially like that, and people that he's already familiar with, and also have some camaraderie with. So I do believe this is more of a, I know he said it and people don't believe it, but this will be more of a resurgence of a James Harden when it comes to this year. I'm not saying it's going to be 40, 50, 60 point nights, but he's going to be very efficient, very effective. And the team, I feel like, is going to be very much improved because of him being in the middle of it, setting everyone up, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think the chemistry is it's already much higher than it's ever been. Like, this is the highest chemistry's been in Philadelphia, and I can't even tell you how long. So I definitely think that's going to play a large part. He knows how to play with Tucker, with House. He's going to find them no problem. I'm not questioning. I'm more so just excited to see how he improves upon over 10 assists a game. And I think maybe what it's going to look like is it's not necessarily going to be a higher number, but we're just going to see not a higher completion percentage would be the barring a football term, but his scoring numbers are going to go up, but he's going to maintain that assist volume or something nearby.
I definitely believe he can, because it's just who is he passing it to? We've seen a lot of passes last year where Danny Green missed literally 4 in a row. Korkmaz won't even touch the rim. So it's like when you have better shooting out there, better quality shooters out there, essentially, and then just not even just shooters. Now we got guys who can cut and go to the paint and finish at the rim. So I do believe he can actually be better than the threshold that he did when it came to assisting this year. I absolutely believe that.
Yeah, no, and it's going to be a fun ride to be so close to that action, and see how he and Joel grow together as well. Just they barely played together, that's the thing. And those first couple games, they looked fantastic. I think we're going to see a little bit more of that this season. Maybe not throughout the entire year, but I think it's going to much more closely resemble that than his performance in the final game of the season for Philadelphia. But number 4 for Justin, what are we looking at?
James Harden. Yeah, and we don't have to rehash anything. Although I will say that Zach was talking about the assist numbers. I do think they can go up. I do think he can get to about 12.
Wow.
And
and scoring at the volume that he does.
I think that he'll be able to get to 12. I'm not saying, I think maybe, to me, the numbers I expect 25 and 12 or 24 and 12. But the reason I say that is because I think more chemistry, more plays specifically for him, especially when he gets his burst back. More people help off the weak side for him. They do it all the time. He was making the passes, just people weren't hitting the shot. Also, eventually, when the Sixers do find a way to get Eric Gordon, he's going to really feel comfortable and get more assists. So when the Sixers have moved and become the pseudo Rockets, for real, I think he'll get more assists. But everybody said everything. But yeah, James Harden is number 4 for me. I agree. I do expect a big year from him.
I do. I really do.
Okay, so I do just want to bring up one thing. Mm-hmm. You said 12. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to let you forget that number 12. Okay.
So if he gets 11, 11.5 a game,
player averaged 12 assists.
Okay. When's the last time?
That would be John Stockton in the 1994-95 season. So for those of you sitting at home, that's the year I was born. So NBA has not seen a player average 12 assists. And qualify at the end of the year. So
he averaged, and I'm just saying, and I agree with you. I hear what you're saying, but he averaged 10.3 assists a game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think
on lower scoring numbers.
Yes, but I do think that. Yes, okay. I see what
I'm
you're
not trying to fight you because I hope you're right. I want him to get 30 and 12. I would love that.
I don't think he can get 20. I think it's gonna be like 24 and 12.
24. Okay, that's
24 and 12 because I believe
higher efficiency. Looking to facilitate a little more. 24 and 12. Okay.
I think he'll have his games where he's dominating, scoring the ball, and everybody will get out his way. But the reason I expect his numbers, like I don't expect him to go to 28 points because Joel probably still get 30, right? Because he'll be force fed at least 5 buckets a game. That's 10 points right there. Besides working hard for his other 20.
Yeah.
I think Maxey taking the jump. I think Maxey's going to jump from 17 to 18 points a game to about 21. And I think if you still get it to Tobias 18 to 20, I think that's still good. So, Tobias might drop down to maybe like 17, but I think that Maxey taking another jump will make a difference. But I do believe 12, and I get it, it's a lot. But I do think 12 assists, I think it's doable over the span of the year. Now, he might have some nights when he only got 7. But I think it's going to be other nights where it was a couple nights this season with the Sixers, he had 15, 16 assists. Could have had 19 if they were hitting the shots. Like, it's just some people wasn't expecting the passes because he's just great vision.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be the difference because people will be expecting. And again, the comfortability with other people. He knows where PJ Tucker is going to be at all times. He didn't know where Niang or Korkmaz was going to be on those plays. He knows how House likes to play. So he's going to force feed him. Well, not force feed him, but feed him in the spots that are comfortable for him where he knows that he's going to get the bucket. And it's not going to be of course, shooting is whatever. But as far as like if it's a little drop-off pass, so he knows he likes to cut the baseline or just like stuff like that he's comfortable with. Also now I feel like he didn't push the pace because he wasn't healthy. I feel like more pushing of the pace with more athletes. Him and Maxey, House running, Melton running, like these athletic guys. I think those would be to make the difference. So I hope I'm right.
All right,
And I know we got to move on. I just wanted to add this tidbit because I know you guys are saying that with the scoring production. Me personally, I'm not even. I don't go into the season thinking he has to have averaged 24, 25 points. I feel like you brought it up. You hit on a little bit earlier, Justin, that he's going to have his moments that he dominates games and does what he does to win games. But that's why I believe the assists will go up because of all the things that you mentioned, being able to run more with athletes, cutting. I think it's going to be a more diverse offense than what we think it is. And if he's ending the game with 22, 24, like you said, I do believe them extra points will come somewhere else because we have such a better depth in the bench. Essentially, I do believe those points are coming. So I can see him averaging the year 11 assists, 11.5, like Justin said. I don't see quite 12 hitting it, but definitely I can see 11, 11.5 for sure.
No, yeah. I mean, time will tell. It's definitely going to be fun to watch, and we can even kind of keep track during the year and kind of hold him to that standard. He has no idea about what we just talked about. So for number 4 for me, right? Yeah. This is where I have Ja Morant, and I have to have Ja here just because I think that there is more certainty. It's not complete certainty. We talked about the injuries, right? There's still a lot of uncertainty around James Harden, in my opinion. I hope that that's proven wrong. But Ja Morant really took it up another step this past season. If he can kind of take it up another notch, I don't even necessarily need, the points, the rebounds, the assists to improve. I want to see the shooting numbers improve. And if he can get that shooting percentage up to around 37, 38%, you're talking about a dangerous man leading Memphis there. So at his age, with how he's improved so far, I think he's got, this might be kind of his peak, not that it's downhill after this, but more so to say, and this is where I'm projecting him, not saying last season was his peak, but his peak might be around the 3rd, 4th best point guard in the league, just because that shooting can always kind of hold him back a little bit. And unfortunately, for his sake, he's in a generation where there's a lot of great young point guards, but I think just with everything that Morant can do, the way he can impact the game on the fast break, in the half court, if he can improve that shooting, I think that he'll get it, maybe not quite 37, maybe around 36. That's just a bad man right there, So he was an MVP candidate at one point last season. Like it, I cannot really lower a guy who was an MVP candidate who's that young that far. So number 4 for me, Ja Morant. I feel like we've talked about him a good bit otherwise, but that's number 4 for me. AB, now we're going to 3 for you. What do we got?
Yeah, and keep it short and sweet. I mean, like I said, Ja is 3 for me. Like you said, he's in that 3-4 range right now with the potential being more. Like I said, to him to impact the game that like he does, not being able to shoot is an astonishing in itself. But like you said, I do need to see him improve with the shooting because, like you said, once he gets that down, that's a whole nother stratosphere. And the only other caveat I have when it comes to Ja Morant that I feel like holds him back essentially is, I don't know about anyone else, but I'm not a fan of the coach that they have in Memphis. He literally just, I feel like he just has them just run around and just like play like there's no structure, there's no system, there's no real flow to their offense. So I do believe between Ja actually putting in the work of being able to become a better shooter from the outside, but then also we know sometimes coaching make careers out of certain players. I do. That's another thing that holds him back. Essentially, I need him to get with a real coach, essentially like that, to actually run something down there. Because what's going on in Memphis right now is just a lot of young cats that's just like, a dog.
I mean, the whole team's trying to figure that out. What I'll say, it's not even necessarily in defense of Taylor Jenkins, but it's more so just kind of food for thought. Is any portion of that kind of just running around and taking the open shot or running on the fast break, that kind of lack of structure, what part of that stems from not only the youth, but also a lead guard who can't shoot or not even can't shoot, but isn't a great shooter? It could kind of go either or in my mind. So that's part of the reason I want to see Ja Morant improve that shot even more, so he can prove that, hey, these offensive limitations, they're not on me. because I want to see him get better and better and better. Dude's 22. I mean, like, if he can get that shot, then we're talking about, I'd say top 3, but he's 4 on my list, 3 on yours. He's already in top 3 territory. But then we're talking about top 2. Top 2 is next tier point guard. And if he can get that shot, if he can prove that he can lead Memphis offensively, not just in the regular season, not just in scoring, but in a winning fashion, which typically you need to be able to shoot a little bit in today's NBA to do that. I still think that he can be, again, top 2, which is insane to think about, considering who the other guys are in that area, But Justin, we'll turn to you now. So we are on 3. Who's 3 for you?
So before I do my number 3,
oh, here we go.
I do want to say this because we were talking about the assist with James Harden. I just want to give you a little fun fact. In 1947, the Philadelphia Warriors player Howie Delmar led the NBA in assists with 2.5 assists per game. But
2.5.
That's crazy, right? I don't know. That just made me go look at that. But no, okay. My number 3.
He had 120 on the year. That's insane.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's terrible.
The plumbers and what was it?
JJ Redick said, yeah.
Plumbers and milkmen or something like plumbers
milkman,
and postmen.
Yeah. So he probably was actually a milkman. Probably would have delivered a little bit better. He's probably
yeah. But no. So my number 3 is Trey Young.
Okay.
And the reason I have Trey Young at number 3, like I had to get past the Trey Young beating the Sixers stuff. Like I had to get past that.
Yeah, you got to purge those demons.
What'd you say?
You got to purge those demons.
Yeah, I do. And I look at it and I say, okay, Trey has been defying odds since he was in high school, right? Too small, college, too small, and it won't work in the NBA. Get to the NBA, too small, it won't work, and it's working, and he's good. He makes his teammates better. We want to talk about maestros of the pick and okay, we can talk, but he's a maestro.
Well, I was gonna say, is there a little bit of an Iverson affection coming out with just listen to what you're saying?
I just think that he's a maestro of the pick and roll, which is one of the main offenses of the 4-point guard to be effective. I feel like he has really good passing. I do feel like his range is like. We talk about his range, shoot the 3.
Now, Steph range, yeah.
Yes. Now, AB brought up a good thing about efficiency because some nights when he has those bad shooting nights, he can't do anything else. Yes. And when I feel like he's off, Mm-hmm. But I do expect him to continue to get better this season. I think this season with the addition and some of the things that they've done around him, it will allow him to unlock more. And I know we're talking about point guard, but even with DeJounte Murray arriving, I feel like he'll get a lot of off-ball opportunities and be able to affect the gravity of a defense in another way than just having the ball in his hands at all times.
I like that.
But I do think that Trey, he makes John Collins better because John Collins to me he's an athletic forward, but he's I won't say he's an average NBA player. He's above average, but he's an athletic forward.
He can block a bit, but if he doesn't have pick and roll partner Trey Young, does affect him.
Same thing with Capella. We saw Capella play well with James Harden and grow into a quote unquote almost all-star player or all-star player with James Harden. Then they found him in that same role as a pick and roll player there. They got the other center. I forgot his name. I don't want to butcher his name, but the back, yes, he looks really good with Trey Young too. So it just shows how he affects these forwards and these centers, as far as his gravity and stuff like that. So I do think, bad hair aside,
everybody's got tonight. Yep.
Bad hair aside, he looks like a lollipop that fell on the floor and got a lot of lint on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looks like the baby on the Pampers The
But look,
Panthers
he
Bucks.
owns it. I got to give him credit for that. Like it kind of reminds me of. It's not as egregious. Let me be upfront before I say this. It's not as egregious, but when AD first came into the league, before he went all Hollywood, right?
The brow.
He kept the unibrow, he kept the shark teeth. That was the bigger thing for me. Was
Right.
rows and rows of teeth. But he kept it. He owned it. He made a brand out of it.
Yep.
Trey Young is recognized in part. I mean, obviously he's one of the best players in the NBA, but he is recognized also in part, because he has this questionable haircut and he rocks it. So give him points for that confidence. I gotta give him credit.
Like they did a whole chant, Trey Young Ball. And again, and listen. I have hair too, and I'm balding a little bit as well, so I understand.
Sure, yeah.
But I'm just being funny. But at the end of the day,
that was Knicks fans who did that, right?
Yeah.
Well, that they're just trying to, any way that they can, just because, listen, we all from time to time rebel against our daddies. It's just how it is.
But no, I just think Trey Young I do think that next season Trey Young will be a top 3-point guard. I do think the Hawks will be better than what people say. They had a bad start last year, wound up sneaking in through the play-in. Well, not sneaking in. They played well. They won their play-in games that they were supposed to win to get in. They did what they were supposed to do. And, I do think that they will be better equipped. And I think they could wind up being firmly in the top 6 if Trey Young continues to elevate. So that's why I have him at 3.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. So much so, in fact, that Trey Young is also my number 3. I think that when you look at his ability, in every offensive aspect, let's not play around like he's an average defender, but offensively he's a spectacle. He is a pick and roll maestro, reminiscent of Harden in a lot of ways. I wonder about the efficiency, and one thing that I will say is that Hawks team was bad last year. Like Trey Young aside, it was bad, and part of it is not having talent, just total personnel, but talent that not even that didn't fit well together, but there was outside of Trey Young, who was there really who could facilitate, who could run an offense, who could really get his own shot. I mean, I'm a big fan of Bogdan Bogdanović, but he wasn't it. You had DeAndre Hunter come alive during the playoffs if he can keep that up, but even still, I think it's got to be a question mark at best. Going like I local guy, I would love to see him really just keep up how he played in the playoffs going forward, but that's not how he played during the regular season. That's part of how they were there. So when you look at the rest of the team, Capella, Collins, fine, but you just don't have that role. It really, like, there was no one else who could do what Trey Young does to the point where he's having to overextend himself. And I think that's where you kind of come into these moments of frustration and leads to the inefficiency. He's a young player, so still getting into his own head, things of that nature. I can't say how big of a deal it is enough that they added DeJounte Murray and only gave up Danilo Gallinari from a player standpoint. Like, obviously they so many draft picks, but they only gave up Danilo Gallinari. That's huge. That's huge. And for multiple reasons. Not only is he a really good player, right? DeJounte Murray, that is. Not only can he score at a high volume, we saw that last year in San Antonio, he can help run the offense. I mean, like you said, you can run Trey Young in some more off-ball sets and see what he looks like, in a few more catch-and-shoot scenarios. Just give him a break, like let him catch his breath almost, as it were. And on top of that, Trey Young's a sieve on defense. So having Murray to, really kind of have his back there, between Murray, between Hunter, between Capella, and Collins' at least shot blocking ability, that's a solid defense now that you have around Trey Young. So it's kind of it takes a village mentality, which I think is the case for most players, especially when you start talking about what makes a good player great. But Trey Young is now put in a position to succeed, and so I think that he will definitely have earned that third ranking by the time the season's done. But we're going to try and pick it up a little bit. The guys at the top, I think we all have the same top two. It's just a matter of who's one and who's two. And it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. So AB, who's your number two?
Off the bat, Luka the Don, number two for sure. What he showed last year in the playoffs was just magical. Just to see the comeback, beat the Phoenix Suns. Essentially, it was something to see. He definitely took that next step that you needed to see from someone they anointed pretty early to be the face of the league. Essentially, so definitely. Excited to see where he goes into next year. Obviously, with the new additions of like a Christian Wood, Tim Hardaway should be back next year as well. So to see those guys out there, and then Spencer, who sort of came on in the playoffs as well. So yeah, definitely want to see how they go further. I think Christian Wood aspect is definitely, I wouldn't say underrated, but definitely not being talked about. Definitely. A decent defender, rebounder, can score the basketball, spread the floor, gives them another shooter for Luka to hit the shots in the corner, things of that nature. So definitely Luka Doncic number two going into this season, see if he could take that next step and actually get to the conference final and beyond, and maybe an NBA championship.
Yeah, absolutely. Very impressive season. Justin, you think in the same line of thinking, or who's your number two?
Yep, Luka. Yep, Luka. I think Luka. Everything AB said, Luka's, he's already kind of at that point where he just controls so much of the game, very ball dominant. But I think Luka, he can improve. I think free throw shooting is a big thing for him.
Absolutely.
He can improve on free throw shooting. He can improve on some of his efficiency from three, although everybody talks about his step back. His 3-point shooting isn't, I don't think it's if I'm not mistaken, he's below average 3-point shooter. And then as far as I think the next step that'll help Luka, and I know it's a part of his game that like herky jerky slow-mo thing. I think if Luka starts really taking care of his body, I think that'll be an added dimension for him. So it'll give us some added bounce and some more speed so that he can kind of do speed and that kind of like Euro slowness as well. But I think Luka is number two, and I think he can be number one in a couple years.
Yeah. So first to touch on the 3-point efficiency, he is 0.001% off of being league average. League average was 35.4, and he shot 35.3% from three. It's on 8.8 per game, so it's like
it's high.
If he lowered it, he probably would be league average.
Yeah.
I kind of really wish I could say Luka at 2. You're gonna hate me for this. I gotta go Steph at 2. I have to. Listen. Steph is great. Steph is phenomenal. He's my number one point guard all time, right? This Golden State Warriors team was more of a group effort than I think a lot of people expected. I really think that part of the reason they succeeded so much was, and I can't believe I'm saying this, Andrew Wiggins and how he played in the postseason. During the regular season, there's a little bit of a struggle for Steph. The one thing that I think is when you talk about playoff Steph, it's another level. And I hear you loud and clear. That kind of everything I said about Chris Paul earlier, it was kind of the same thing for Steph, where he kind of, he took it nice and easy during the regular season, then kicked it up the next level. I just think this season is the year that Luka oversteps him. Steph number one up until now. I think this is the year that Luka oversteps him. Part of that is I think that they're going to be a little bit more complete of a team in Dallas. You have Spencer Dinwiddie's increased chemistry. Now you have Christian Wood, who I don't love, but I like, and I love him for the price they got.
Right.
So I think that you're going to see a more competitive team. There are a lot of teams in the West that improved, but the teams around Dallas's level, I think, kind of got a little worse, with a few exclusions, of course. But when you're looking at like the Utahs, the Denvers, things like that, so I think you actually be looking at a chance where Dallas moves up in the standings a little bit, and we see a little bit of a deeper playoff push from Luka Doncic. So a lot of that's going to depend on who they have, in Dallas, who can step up if Dinwiddie's consistent. They lost Brunson. That's a huge deal, obviously. They have to find a way to trade Tim Hardaway Jr. away from Dallas. I think I kind of like him. He's kind of awful at the same time. I'm kind of undecided. He takes just a lot of janky shots. And so you kind of need a guy who's a little more consistent from three. So if you can make a move or two in Dallas, I think they have a real team, and I think we're looking at finally the time where Luka takes over from Steph. So that really we all know who your number ones are now. Steph. You guys want to talk about just how special Steph is and why he's still number one in your opinion?
My base basically, as you said about Luka, yeah, he definitely can overstep it, but until that is done, he's the guy.
Yeah.
That's just how I look at things, Steph.
Fair.
And this year, and I was one of the ones that had the back of the mind thoughts, know that Steph was great, but this year he showed a lot, and I know a lot of guys played a part in it, and he had moments in games, as all teams. And there's no championship team that Steve Kerr himself, he had an impact on the team as well. So you need guys to step up and do things. But this year, you really seen that the Golden State Warriors ran because of Steph Curry and how great he was. Because even as someone like Klay Thompson coming back, who didn't have the greatest of postseason, he had moments, he had spurts, but we really didn't see Klay that we was accustomed to seeing, essentially, like that. He had some fluky games out there that was just like, where is Klay at? Stretches of time, 6 minutes, 8 minutes, and Klay is just not doing anything. So I do feel like Steph is at the mountain right now, and until someone actually overtakes him, you got to leave the champ up there for sure. And finals MVP.
Yeah, finally. Yeah, much deserved. Justin, what about you, just to wrap us up? Any separate thoughts?
No, everything AB said, and Steph is the number 2 on my must watch list, must see list in person.
Absolutely.
Or whatever. I just think that he's number 2 just with the shots he makes, circuit shots, the threes, just everything. But so I got Steph at number 1, and I think as long as Steph stays healthy,
that's
I
it.
think he might be able to stay on top. But
right,
that's for discussion.
Heading into his age 34 season, wishing him well with it. Definitely, I'd call him the most exciting player of this generation of basketball.
Absolutely
unreal things that he's been able to. You talk about guys who changed the game. He's definitely up there. So
absolutely,
I think I picked Luka number 1. I'm of the opinion you kind of can't go wrong either way. Just depends on how you view it. You have to topple the king or just project that Luka's going to do that. So we kind of went on a good little bit with this. A lot of great discussion over these guys. The little bit of KD news just involving the Boston Celtics. We're going to do a little deeper dive into that on our next episode, just because there should be some more news by then as well. So for today, that actually wraps up our show. AB, thank you so much for hopping on today.
No problem at all. Thank you for having me.
Everywhere people can find you, because people need to be listening to you. They need to be reading you. Let them know where they can find you, man.
Well, obviously, PhillySportsNetwork.com. Definitely my writing work is on there. So definitely check that out. I've been working on a lot of things, so I hasn't been tapped in as much as I needed to with that, but I definitely have some things coming out real soon with that. And then obviously, anywhere you get your podcast, and then also on YouTube. Open Gym Network is on there. Different things, different interviews, different locations we've been. Everything, man. Just follow me. Twitter only one __ AB. Instagram only one AB __.
Fantastic. Love it. Definitely check out Open Gym. Fantastic stuff on there. Like I said, a lot of great guests, a lot of familiar guests too. So just great work, AB. So definitely check it out, everybody. And to that point, AB was talking about all the different ways that you can hear his podcast. Obviously, we are on YouTube, we are on Spotify, Apple Music. Check us out anywhere that you listen to podcasts, that you watch. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch and to listen to us today. We really can't tell you how much we appreciate just people who care to listen to us talk about ball for an hour. So, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. And for myself, for Justin, for AB, thank you again for joining us. We just hit you with the baseline scoop.
It's 89-84. Sixers, and they get inside.